Hello everybody, my name is Lily, and today I want to answer the question, is the Chicago Architecture Biennial worth your time? The rules are simple. I'll be rating the art exhibition on 5 different categories, each rated 1 through 5. The categories for today are enjoyment, art exhibits, education, organization, and finally, time value. With all that out of the way, I will see you guys after the Chicago Architecture Biennial. I am back. Now, what exactly is the CAB, otherwise known as the Chicago Architecture Biennial? It is described as this on their website. The CAB convenes the world to explore innovative ideas and collectively imagine the future of design. The Biennial's large-scale exhibitions, talk performances, films, and other events create opportunities to engage in timely global issues through the lens of architecture and design, emphasizing creativity and community participation. Free and open to the public, the Chicago Architecture Biennial stands as North America's largest international survey of contemporary architecture and design. Founded in the city that gave birth to the skyscraper and continues to shape global language of architecture, the CAB celebrates Chicago's unmatched legacy while boldly projecting its future. The biennial emerged from the City of Chicago's 2012 Cultural Plan, which envisioned a platform to highlight the city's cultural leadership. In collaboration with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events and the Grand Foundation, the Chicago Architecture Biennial launched its inaugural edition in 2015. Since 2015, the CAB has produced 5 editions and featured more than 400 projects from 40 countries and welcomed over 2.2 million visitors to exhibitions and public programs across Chicago. From Sullivan and Wright to today's most daring spatial thinkers, the biennial reaffirmed Chicago's role as a crucible for radical ideas and inclusive design. The 6th edition of the Chicago Architecture Biennial, Shift Architecture in Times of Radical Change, opens September 19th, 2025, and will be on view through February 28th, 2026. So, obviously, right now we are currently in that 6th edition. That is when I went to. The location I went to, because they have 2 for this specific edition, does close sooner. It closed, I believe, in mid-February. The 2 locations are in the Chicago Cultural Center and in another building about 5 minutes away from the Water Tower Place. So both right in the heart of Chicago, a fantastic spot if you're just checking out Chicago or if you're just bored one day and you happen to live in the area. Another thing is this happens every 2 years. So the first one was in 2015 and then 2017 and all the way up to 2025 into that 2026 region. So that means the next one will be in 2027. I'm doing my best to get this video as soon as possible. It's still following my weekly schedule. I've pushed it up against a lot of other videos that I was really excited about making, simply because I wanted to make sure I give people the chance to go to this place because it is really cool. But if this does not reach you fast enough or you cannot make it, I highly encourage you to go to the next one in 2 years because this place was a treat. Let's go ahead now and get into those categories. Starting off with enjoyment, I gave this one a 4 out of 5. In general, I did have a really fun time. I was confused just a little bit, and that was mainly by the organization of the building. That's why it did get just a point off. But overall, I love the vibes. I was not expecting it. The one promotional video I had seen, which was sent by my mom, hi mom, only showed really the top floor in a very Instagrammable way. So when I entered this building and it was very white and very sparse, I was heavily confused. Eventually I realized this person had mostly just filmed the top floor, but that's okay because this entire place is a lot of fun. It is separated into multiple floors. I believe there are 4 floors plus a basement, if I remember correctly, which I hope I do. I just went there. Enjoyment, 4 out of 5, really fun. After that is art exhibits, which I ended up giving a 5 out of 5. I felt these exhibits were really well put together, and I am a person who has a tendency to struggle with modern art. I have some beef with the Art Institute, I will admit, though I did feel that this was really well put together. I felt the exhibitions had a lot to them. I felt like they were all really well thought out. They all were, of course, showing off the design, and one of my favorites was actually a playable game you could play on a TV where you could add pieces of plywood in order to create a building and see how much Now the world around you is actually affected based off the building of this. How many trees have you taken down? How many spiders have you displaced? How many squirrels have you displaced? It was just really fun and interesting. And in general, I thought that exhibition was really just trying to get us, and honestly, the entire exhibit was supposed to bring architecture together, not just as a standalone thing, but to have rippling effects throughout our entire ecosystem. When we build a house, we have to get materials. In order to get materials, that takes time, money, effort, and that means materials have to be taken away from somewhere else. And as a person who loves sustainability and is always doing the best trying to be sustainable as humanly possible, I really appreciate this place. There was also just these multiple really fun big wooden structures that I also got to see. And I'd like to mention, if there was wood, it was not polished wood. It was just very simple plywood, which I thought was a really excellent touch. Another exhibit I really liked was this really long straw snake. I don't know, that's the only way I can describe it. And this is meant to be a representation of the way that water levels are currently lowering, and it is showing its journey here and how that journey has a big impact, though, on where it's from. After that, we have education, which I did end up giving a 3.5 because I actually really appreciated this place because majority of time, art exhibits, I've talked about this a lot, block text. It's a lot of block text, a lot of reading it, and it's a situation where I ain't reading all that. It's quite simple. If you're not heavily into this subject, you're really unlikely to read these giant block text, which is really disappointing. Because that might mean you're going to end up losing a lot of the context. Of course, there was a little bit of block text. They do the very traditional Chicago Museum plaque method, which tells you a lot about the space, but they were actually pretty short, which I really appreciated. My issue was the basement. It was about living with the materials we have, the people we have, the communities we have, the ecosystems we have, and finding ways to solve architectural problems without completely disturbing and destroying these kind of habitats. And it was from all these different places all around the world in the ways they found solutions that did not horribly impact the environment. And I like this a lot. But my biggest issue was QR code. Also really like the QR codes, and I know it's kind of confusing. But in order to get in-depth explanation on each of these, you had to scan a QR code, which is not, it's not unreasonable, but not everybody's going to take the time to scan these QR codes. They might only scan the ones they're really interested in. But the text that was there to explain to you what these places are and where they're from didn't really give you a lot at all. And I think the reason was because each of these places were able to kind of make their own design for what it was, because there was just these wooden triangles with pictures on them. But because of that, it just doesn't really draw you in. I can't really see many people taking their time to do QR codes, something they don't really understand. So because of that, it was just a little bit off. But overall, I did feel the education was pretty nice, slightly above average. Not the worst, though definitely could use some improvement. I do see what they're going for, and I do hope in the next edition in 2 years, they will have this to be even better. After that, we have organization, which I ended up giving also a 3.5 because it was a little bit hard to navigate at times. The rooms are very white, floor, ceiling, walls, and it can be a little bit hard to know where things are, which is weird because it's really open. But for some odd reason, it was just kind of felt like a very liminal space I was in the entire time. So I am going to actually give it the half point back. It is now getting a 4 out of 5. Hi everyone, Editing Lily here. I'm going to go ahead and put in some context because I have to cut out a very large portion of my video. So I had a major misconception when I was recording. I believed that it was potentially where the very top floor of the location I was at did not have elevator access, because when I was at the second to top floor, I had to take these stairs. There wasn't a way to get on the elevator. And I'm still not entirely sure what the elevator stair situation is for that top floor. And because of that, that is why I gave the half point back, but it's really badly explained in the video. So I'm just cutting it all out and give it to you guys here. Top floor may or may not be accessible from the elevator. I really don't know. I'm really sorry. Finally, let's talk about time value. This I ended up giving a 4 out of 5. I believe this is an excellent place to check out. I was only able to experience a couple hours here, though I personally think I could have been there all day. There was a lot to see and a lot to hang out in, and it was very comfy and cozy despite being very sterile white. I really enjoyed it. I think this is also really good for a general audience. I can definitely see kids enjoying this. I can see adults. I can see students. I can see basically all ages coming into this place and just enjoying it. I think what really solidified for me is when you first walk in, they have an interactive spot on the right where you can write down poems for change for Chicago. A lot of good stuff there. I sadly did not get the chance to add my own because it closed before I could do that. But I highly encourage you to go in there, read it, add something of your own, as well as One of the key aspects of the first floor was this tent, and inside was this really cool, I don't know what you call it, I guess 3D diagram. It was one of those little miniatures that people make, a miniature diagram. It was massive though, and it was meant to represent the community and community spaces we can create and how much they can house and what they use. I thought it was so cool to look at, and there was so many fun little areas to explore. It really just feel like a Master Easter egg hunt, and I'm pretty sure I spent a good 20 minutes there of my 2 hours, which is really, really impressive. So overall, I think this place is great time value for you. Make sure you check it out. Finally, let's go ahead now and get into the totals. The Chicago Architecture Biennial ended up with an average score of a 4.1 out of 5 and a total score of 20.5 out of 25. It did get a perfect score in art exhibit, which I think makes sense. I think that is what it pulled off the most. And overall, it's a good place to go. My main issue with the place simply is a little bit hard to get through, as well as that bottom floor. I really do feel like they could have used the QR codes a little bit better. I do see what they're going for, and I hope next year they're able to kind of tinker with that and incorporate more QR codes. So I think that's a really easy way to both easily translate to the reader quick information, and then if they want to know more, then they can go through all of that block text. Because when you just give someone just block text, the average person is really unlikely to actually read all that. I know I'm not, and I love reading. It's too much, especially with such complicated ideas like architecture and design and art. There's some complicated ideas that can be really hard to understand, and that's why it's so important to break these sort of things up to make sure the general audience can understand and can learn. Because at the end of the day, art exhibits like this are for everybody. It's important we learn about this kind of thing. It is important for your communities. It's relevant to you. And I really hope they do manage to improve that. Do I think this is worth your time? I do. I think you can just spend an hour in here, or you can spend as long as you want. I'm going to go ahead now and give you guys a little bit more information about when this is open. The one I specifically went to, which was very close to the Water Tower place at 840 North Michigan Avenue, is on view right now from November 7th, 2025 to February 15th, 2026. This one is open Thursday through Sunday, 12 to 6. That's it. At the time of this, there are no other special days ones closed. One last thing I did want to mention about the art exhibits. I realized I missed this earlier. Quick little thing was actually the top floor. You remember the Instagrammable place I was talking about? I didn't actually mention it. Mainly because it didn't really fit in as well with everything else. There was this really massive room with these giant balloons that you could just kind of push around, and I almost fell into one because I didn't realize it wasn't as sturdy as I thought it was. So I rammed straight into it. It was fine. I was not fine. And then also on the top floor was this recreation of a club, which probably the only club we'll ever go to, by the way. Ton of fun, love the music, love the vibes. I definitely do kind of get how that one's architecture. Don't really get the big balloons, but that was the Instagrammable floor. So if you want your Instagram pictures, go to that top floor. Some of the other sites currently involved that are featuring this exhibit, but in different ways, so it'll be different at each one, is also the Chicago Cultural Center, the Graham Foundation, the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry, Millennium Park, and Stony Island Arts Banks. You can go to any of those and get probably a slightly different version. I, of course, recommend the one I went to at, once again, 840 North Michigan Avenue. Super duper fun place to go to, and overall, I think you will enjoy it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed making it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!